I'm at a friend of mine's house for a barbecue Saturday afternoon. We're drinking beers, hanging out with our families, and I get a call from our duty agent, and he says, "Hey, FBI just called me. They said they got a guy in custody that says there's a death threat out on you from Alonzo and Amato's organization, because it was all his dope." Really? He goes, "Yeah, Whip, I think you need to talk to him." So I call the FEB. He goes, "Yeah, I got this kid here. He's saying that they're about to kill you. You want to come talk to him? We got him up in the federal building right now." Okay. So I tell my wife, I said, "Pack up the kids, we're going." So I take her back to the house. I get my partner, call my boss, let him know, and my boss, my partner, and we go and we sit down with this kid. He's a 17-year-old kid. The Bureau had arrested him for being a wheelman for a bank robbery crew. They went through, and everybody was making papers. In El Paso, there had been a big string of real violent bank robberies by a crew. They go in and shoot the place up, take the money, and run. Wheelman had a car registered to him, 17-year-old kid. Phoebes figured that one out pretty quick. So somebody finally got a plate, is what happened. And they picked this kid up and they sweated at him, and he rolled on this Saturday. And they said, "Hey, who you work for?" He said, "His name's Alonzo. He's in prison for a narcotics charge." And he says his full name. And they're, "Oh, isn't that the guy Whipple locked up?" And this kid says, "Whipple? Steve Whipple? Oh yeah, they're about to kill him." And they're like, "Oh, really?" So I go, and me and my partner and boss, we sat down with this kid and we debrief him. He knew, he told me the name of the bar, country western bar, that my wife and I would join our friends on occasion on a Friday night. He told me the name of the restaurant that my wife and I had met for lunch a number of times. L&J's, it's a landmark in El Paso. And the game plan. They were setting up surveillance on the federal building there in El Paso. They knew what I drove, and they were going to follow me home to establish where I lived, and then they were just going to the next day follow me away, hit and do me at a stop sign. So I'm like, wow, okay. ASAC flew in that night. We briefed him, and his name was Tom Kennedy. He was relatively new ASAC at the time. He says, "Okay, go home, spend the night, get Ruth and the kids on a plane, send them to her parents up in New York." We'd known Tom when he was in New York. He had been a supervisor. And so we did that, and we put a detail on the house because the attorney that Alonzo would talk to lived up the road from me, and she may or may not have known that I lived there, but there was a 50-50 chance she passed my house every day because there's only 2 ways from her house to the main road. They put me in a hotel, put a protection detail on me. The kid told us that 2 of Alonzo's nephews that didn't get arrested in the drug takedown were running the operation on me. Gave me the phone numbers where their shop was. So that Sunday morning after I dropped Ruth off, I sat down and I wrote an affidavit. They wouldn't let me swear to it because they said I was too close to it. I wrote it, and my partner swore to it. But I got up on 2 jailhouse phones, the pay phones that Alonzo had access to, the phone in the shop, as well as a bug anywhere in the shop. Had approval from Justice that night. Verbal approval was before the judge Monday morning on President's Day. He signed off on it. It was been the same judge who'd been signing all the other earlier warrants, and he was like, "Go get him." Yeah. He was a fantastic judge, Judge Ferguson. Tuesday morning, we were up on the phones by Monday afternoon. Tuesday morning, the Bureau's B&E team showed up. They rerouted them to come. FBI was fantastic on this thing. They technically had the lead, but they shut down their office as we did. Everybody on board to protection details, do whatever was needed, kind of thing. It was quite humbling, what they did for me and my family. Got the bugs installed. So remember I have Eddie over here doing the patch calls? So I tell Eddie, so my partner, he was like, he's a white guy. He just transferred in. He just come from overseas. He fancied himself as Mr. Undercover. And he wanted to be an undercover hitman. And so I said, okay. So I call Eddie. I say, hey, Eddie, this is what, when Alonzo calls us, this is what I want you to tell him. And I told him, I said, hey, the nephews are planning to kill me. And he got all pissed off. Oh, kill those motherfuckers, you know. No, 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 no. No, this is what I need you to do, you know. And tell him that there's a guy from LA that you come to know that's looking for me, that I'd made a case out there and it's a mob case and they're going to take me out. And do you want to talk to this guy? Do you want the nephews to talk to him? He, you know, maybe because the contract was for $75,000 in cash and 75 kilos of cocaine. And see if maybe, you know, this guy would be interested in that contract. So sure enough, Alonzo calls in. He says, hey, let me talk to you about something. So Eddie tells him the story. He says, yeah, absolutely. Give him the nephew's number. So we hook up my partner with the nephews, and they're Dumb and Dumber. And we never got them on the dope case because I don't think Alonzo allowed them because they were stupid. Anyway, so they have some meetings. The prosecutor says, hey, we got to make sure that they're definitely talking about you, Steve. Prosecutor Sam Ponder, best prosecutor I ever worked with. He's just a fantastic guy. Did most of my cases with him. Anyway, he says, hey, have him take a picture of you and then have your undercover say, hey, is this the guy that you want killed? Just so we can prove for sure, you know, take that defense away. Okay, Sammy, we'll do it. So they take a picture of Polaroid of me walking out of some building. Undercover say, hey, this is the guy. This is who I am going to kill. Is this your guy? Oh yeah, that's him. Can we have that? So he says, yeah, here, take it. They gave him a gun, the whole 9 yards. Bad guys gave Eddie a gun, the undercover a gun, and the process is on. So now the takedown is going to be when the undercover delivers a picture of me dead to the bad guys. So the associate SACs had come out for some of this from Houston, because back then El Paso reported to Houston, and that was Ernie Howard. He was fantastic. He was out there for that. So we called my old partner and another former task force officer who now back in homicide at El Paso PD. Hey, can you come out and make a dead scene? Kill me in the desert. Yeah, I'll come out and do that. So we all go out. So I have the ASAC, the associate SAC, my GS, my 2 cops. And we all go out in the desert and they take Polaroids of me getting killed. And man, they were good pictures. Bag over the head, shot to the head, took an ass kicking in the process, you know, all in the trunk, just all kinds of great pictures. So he picked a couple of them out to give to the bad guys. While we're out there, Alonzo gets on the phone to this female defense attorney. Hey, I keep asking Eddie, when is he going to plead guilty? And he still hasn't pled guilty, he says. I'm a little worried about him because we're doing something. And she goes, okay, I'll check. Call me back this afternoon. We see her leave her office, walk over to the couple blocks away to the federal building, go in, and they're calling me at this point, and because I'm getting all this crap off of me, and I call Sammy. I said, Sammy, this is what happened. Are they going to find out? Because what we'd done a week before this happened is we'd dismissed all the charges against Eddie because of what he had done for us in thwarting these attempts. He was going to testify in a trial that was going to come up. He'd done everything. And Sammy says, yep, it's in the file. She's going to see the dismissal. We can't hide that. You can't go down there and get it, you know, before she said, no, Steve, I can't. Crap. Okay. So I tell the associate, and they sack that. Later that afternoon, Alonzo calls. Don't say anything on the phone. I'll be right over to see you. We see her going to the jail. The case just went away just like that. Got a call later that day from the SAC here in Houston, Don Ferrone. Another one treated me fantastic. He said, Steve, they told me what happened. We can't stop this threat, so we got to move you. And he said, forget about Mexico. We're not going to send you en route to Mexico, because we'd applied for, and we were competitive for positions down in Mexico City. And he goes, where do you want to go? Anywhere you want to go in DEA besides Mexico. And I said, well, sir, I'd prefer to stay in the division. Houston or San Antonio, wherever you think's best. He goes, oh, all right, we'll send you to San Antonio. So we end up shutting the case down. He gets sentenced to 28 years for the dope case. They don't use anything of this from the sentencing, so the marshals don't know anything about it, so BOP doesn't. And they're going to send him to Three Rivers, which is right down the road from San Antonio. And so I call BOP. I finally get to the right person, and I'm like, hey, let me tell you a story. So I said, oh my gosh, we can't send him to Three Rivers. He needs to go somewhere bad. I said, yeah, how hard can we do this? She goes, well, I don't know that I can get him into Florence, which is ADX, right? Mm-hmm. But I can get him into Leavenworth. Would that be all right? I said, oh, absolutely. She said, well, will you give me a memo? What? Give me the number to fax it to. And I bang it out, sign it, which I'm sure is violating 1,000 rules, But yeah, they sent his butt to Leavenworth, which I was happy about. FBI went up and interviewed him, and I got the paperwork back on it. He said, yeah, that was me. I did it. I was mad. I'm not mad anymore. It was the crux of the interview.
Is that, because I was going to ask you, when they determined the threat kind of went away, is that kind of when he goes,
Well, so we determined so it was considered resolved by the Bureau. They closed their case because they had the primary case, because they have the primary jurisdiction there. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, he's out now. I drove by. I was in El Paso not too long ago. I saw a fat son of a bitch.
Oh, you've seen him in person?
Hell yeah, I have. He doesn't know it was me. He doesn't know I drove by. I saw him. I know where his place of business is.
Wow.
Yeah.
But, do you ever worry about it even to this day, or?
To the point where I'm careful about some things. Mm-hmm. And we'll just leave it at that. Where I take specific precautions, just because this guy was violent. They are a violent gang, and once you're a member, you're a member. Yeah. And that gang's still there. They became an integral part of the later wars in Juarez between the Juarez Cartel and Chapo. Mm-hmm. And there was a ground war fought between gangs. They were one of the gangs fighting it. So DEA was happy enough with it to the point where later I promoted as the ASAC.